Have you ever woken up and said to yourself, how did I get this way? Lots of us have. I think almost everybody out there has at some point felt like that. And so what I'm super excited to teach you today is how to get out of that kind of funk. And so these are tips and tools that I've used and I've shared with hundreds of my clients to help get out of a funk when it comes to your weight and when it comes to the journey to having your best body. So, I like to talk about fat release. Instead of saying I want to lose weight, I like to use the wording I want to release fat, because if you lose weight you may be losing precious muscle, and I would far rather lose fat than muscle. And then if you say lose, you often find what you've lost. So that's why I like to really work on the wording. I want to release fat. I do not want to lose and then find it again. So what you lose, you often find. If you call it fat release, I promise you will have more success in releasing fat. So I believe the power of our words are so important. So here's my 3 tips that can really, really help you. If you haven't met me, my name is Charmaine Ironside, and I am the official diet dropout. So what my role in life is to help people just like you release fat without dieting, because 95% of dieters gain back all the weight they lost, and often more than they lost. And I know, as someone who dieted my whole life up till I was about 30 years old, I started when I was 11, I never was able to keep the weight off through a diet. And so I came up with some healthier, happier, more joyful ways to release fat from my body without dieting. And I'm super excited to share those with you along the journey. However, today I'm going to tell you how to get out of a fat loss funk, or a fat release funk. When I was 30 years old, I was overweight, I was frustrated, I was depressed, and I was just so unhappy and uncomfortable in my body. So if you are feeling uncomfortable in your body right now, I know some of what you're going through. I know some of the feelings and emotions and struggles that you're facing. And what I noticed when I was in my early 30s, when I was 30 actually, I started realizing the way I was talking to myself and the mindset that I had throughout my whole life. And I started to look into this because I realized there must be some correlation. I was mean to myself. I was super critical. Every time I messed up on a diet, I would just be so self-loathing and full of guilt and shame. And so I started to look into this, and I thought, maybe there is something to having a better, positive mindset. Maybe there is something to talking to myself with a little bit more respect. And I researched and found out that 80% of the average North American adults' thoughts are negative. And unless we work on changing that to a more positive outlook, we are just going to remain negative. And you can see what's happening in the world out there. People are struggling. And I think a huge part of that is the way that we talk to ourselves and how negative we can tend to be. So I'm excited to share my 3 tools for how you can become less negative. One of my favorite quotes says, "Thoughts become things, so choose the good ones." So I truly believe, and I've noticed in the last couple years in my life, what I think about expands in my life. And this is not just a woo-woo concept. The more you focus on something you love, or the more you focus on something you hate, the more you're going to get of those things, positive or negative. So tool number 1 for becoming more positive, for getting out of that funk, for having more loving self-talk, is when you say something to yourself, probably a thought comes, ask yourself, would I say that to my best friend, or would I say that to my daughter or son or child? So I have almost a 2-year-old, and I use that as my barometer now. I'm like, would I ever say what I just said to myself, to my daughter? And if it's a no, then I need to restructure how I'm talking to myself. So I used to say things like, "Oh, Charmaine, your thighs are disgusting. Your belly's disgusting. You're never going to get this weight thing figured out." And I would just constantly talk to myself like that. And then I would diet and try to starve myself into having a body that looked better, but I was so negative that it was impossible to have success long term. Because as Deepak Chopra says, a negative motivation is incompatible with a positive result. So we can't expect to berate ourselves and then have success. It just doesn't work long term. Our bodies and our minds and our spirits want to be fed positive things so that they can produce positive things in the world. So my number one tip is check yourself before you wreck yourself. Ask yourself, would I say what I just said to myself to a best friend? And I'm a fitness coach, so I own 2 studios where I help women and men do functional exercise and enjoy their bodies and, build up stronger bodies so that they can do things long into the future. And I help people release fat from their bodies and just feel stronger and better overall. But a lot of my women clients come in and they'll say, I have a specific woman I'm thinking of, and she comes in and she goes, look at these bat wings. And then she'll, grab her stomach with force and say, oh, this is so disgusting. And she'll say things like, I can't get this thing figured out. I'm never going to lose the weight. And so what I've worked with her on is her self-talk, because I've said to her, if you keep saying that stuff to yourself, you're never going to change. You have to believe that you can have more toned arms and you can release the fat from your belly and that you are going to be successful with this journey. Because if you're only saying negative things to yourself, that's what you're going to get. So tool number 2 is a technique I learned in a personal development workshop, and it's called, well, I don't know what it's called, but it's saying the word cancel 3 times. So let's call it the cancel, cancel, cancel technique. So if you have a really nasty reoccurring thought about your body or about anything, but we're focused on fat release and having your ideal body. So if you have a really nasty thought, for me, my number 1 nastiest thought that still sometimes comes is, Charmaine, your legs look fat in those pants, in that bathing suit, whatever. And so when I get that thought, I know it's not serving me. It kind of hits this inner ding and it does not feel good. And so I say the word cancel 3 times. Cancel, cancel, cancel. And then I reframe the thought into a more positive or at least a neutral thought. So for me now, Charmaine, your legs look strong. You have a very capable body. Now get out there and seize the day. So I turn it around. Instead of saying, oh, I look so fat, and then going to ask my husband, oh, do I look fat in these jeans? Which he's never going to say yes to. I just figure it out for myself. And I look at myself and I appreciate those strong thighs that some people tell me I look like a speed skater. I used to be a elite snowboarder, so I guess that's part of why I have such big legs. But it's fine now because I've worked through the inner critic. And so now I'm just excited about my strong thighs. And once in a while, I'll get into that comparison schlager and, oh, look at her thighs. She looks so slim and beautiful. And then I look at myself, and comparing is always a path to defeat and sadness and bad stuff. So I sometimes slip back once in a while, but then I remember how important it is to focus on what's good and what's working, and that my legs can take me through my life, and that they're strong, and that lots of people would love to have strong legs like mine, and just to love myself. And then everything changes. So the cancel, cancel, cancel technique. You have a crappy thought, you say the word cancel 3 times, which actually tells your brain that that thought is no longer welcome in your life. And after a while, it probably took me about 4 months of catching myself when I was looking in the mirror and saying cancel, 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 and then the thought just kind of stopped coming. And yeah, like I said, I'm being honest, once in a while it creeps back in, especially if I've started to compare or look on social media at all the beautiful people in bathing suits. But, the cancel technique works no matter where you are in your journey. So my 3rd technique is doing a negativity detox. So what you put into your mind is what you're going to express in the world. So if you're always putting negative stuff in your mind, watching the crappy news, listening to your friend grumble and complain about her weight, surrounding yourself with negative people, comparing yourself constantly to people on social media that are probably airbrushed and hate their lives anyway and don't eat anything fun, then you're going to feel crappy. So if you spend your days filling your mind with positive thoughts. I love sending affirmations to myself through my phone, just little reminders. Charmaine, you are releasing fat from your thighs, or Charmaine, you are on the right path. Things like that. That fills my mind with positivity instead of focusing on what's not right, basically. I don't watch the news anymore. I've never gone a day without hearing about it from clients or friends or my husband. So maybe consider watching less news. Just what are you putting into your mind? All right, so that is my 3 techniques in a nutshell. Number 1, talk to yourself like you would your child or your best friend. Number 2, use the cancel, cancel, cancel technique to break down those really nasty thoughts. And number 3 is that negativity detox. Fill your mind with the good stuff so that that's what shows up in your life and that's what shows up on your body. And so, a couple years ago, I was a really different woman. I was overweight, I was frustrated, I was out of breath walking up the stairs, I didn't really have that much zest for life. And by using these mindset techniques and deciding that I deserved a better life, I made a lot of changes. So I'm excited to share more and more about my journey with you so I can help you live your best life in your best body, because as you can see, I am not a depressed, sad, overweight woman that does not enjoy her body. I love my body, imperfections and all, and I just want to help as many people as possible learn to live the diet dropout lifestyle, a joyful way of eating, never needing to be stressed around food, and just having a lot more positive thoughts about yourself, because that will change your whole world. If you would like to get more motivation and tools similar to this so that you can release fat from your body faster without dieting, then make sure to check out thedietdropout.com. I've got lots of free resources on there. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm sorry about my backdrop. I'm in my basement, my little studio, and apparently my camera shifted throughout the video. So sorry about the camera. Make sure to check out thedietdropout.com. And I am super excited to hear from you and help you on your fat release journey in a joyful way. Have an awesome day.